Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial from my group on how to cut this corset with an asymmetric hemline. So for this tutorial we'll be cutting this corset pattern as a 3-part corset with an asymmetric hemline. So to start, here on my pattern paper I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust line, my shoulder to under bust, my shoulder to waist line. And to get my blouse length, I added extra 7.5 inches. So you can add 7 to 8 inches. This is because of the hemline of the dress. So next, you're going to mark your shoulder divided by 2, add half to it. Now come down by 1 inch. After that, you're going to go ahead to place your ruler this way and connect. So after you're done connecting, you're going to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So after I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line on this pattern. So the next step I'll take is to mark what I have on the shoulder, which is my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. I'll place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line. Next, I will divide what I have here into 2 and fold and mark. Now I'll come in by ½ inch here and go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So after I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead to connect this and also connect it to the upper part of my pattern. So after I'm done connecting this, I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. After marking that, I placed my ruler and I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line. So after I'm done drawing out my straight line, so I'll go ahead to mark my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides and also repeat that on this side. I'll also take it down to the lower part of my pattern. Now, if you're plus size, you'll be using 1.5 inches at both sides. If you're also busty, you'll be using 1.5 inches at both sides. After that, I'll go ahead and connect my pattern. And after I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to place my curve drew, touching my bust point, and I'll go ahead to connect. And make sure you come down by ½ inch from your bust point before connecting. And I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. So I'll go up by 1.5 inches. You can use 2 inches if you don't want to reveal your cleavage, or if you're a bit busty, you can also use that. So next, I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 again, and I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line. I'll be marking my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. So if you're plus size, you'll be marking 1.5 inches on both sides, or you're going to mark 1 inch at the center and 2 inches going towards the armhole side. Next, I'll be inserting my measurements. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake and add my sewing allowance. My bust is 33 divided by 4, I have 8.3. At the under bust, I'll divide my under bust measurements by 4, replace the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. My under bust and my waist circumference is 28 inches. So I'll go ahead to divide it by 4 and also measure the dart intake and add my sewing allowance for the waistline. For the hip, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, which is 40 divided by 4, I have 10. Measure the dart intake of 2 inches, replace and add my sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead and connect my pattern. So now for the waistline, if you want to go ahead to snatch your waistline, you can go ahead to do it directly on this pattern. So let's say my waist is 28 and I want to take out 2 inches from it. I'll minus 2 inches from my waistline, giving me 26 inches. So that 26 inches now, I'll go ahead and divide it by 4. So if I divide it by 4, I should be having 6.5 inches, and I'll mark, then connect it back. So for this pattern, I'm just making use of my waistline. If you also want to take out much, you can go ahead to do that. After this, I'll use my marker to outline this. So the next step I'll be taking from here is to mark my bust dart. And to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17 inches. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. So take out 15.5 from 17, you will have 1.5 inches left. So I'll go ahead to mark that 1.5 at the bust. So this does not really work for everybody. Your bust that is not 1.5. You can measure yours. Yours can be 2 inches or 2.5. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to connect. So I'll go ahead and come in with half-inch here, and I'll go ahead to connect it. That is on the chest line. I'll connect to my under bust. So for the cup on this pattern is a bit blockish, but I'll be making mine a bit round because what we actually have on the pattern looks like a bustier, but for the requested tutorial I was asked to draft in form of a corset. So now you're going to measure your nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus half and mark at this side and go ahead to connect. So there are other ways also to get your cup. So also remember that you're going to blend in your bust that when you're cutting out your cup. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to connect from this side, then blend it in and also connect. This is to create the three-part corset effect on this corset. So for the Queen Anne neckline corset, I will mark 4 inches here and go in half inch from the dart line. So this is what I have, and you also want to mark 0.3 inches here and blend it. This is to avoid gaping or to tighten the yoke area of your corset. So also this dress has a draping, a mesh draping at the top, so you'll be doing that after you're done sewing. So from this part I'll be coming down at least by 3 to 3.5 inches, and I'll connect it this way and go ahead to blend it, and then go ahead also to connect on the other side of my pattern this way. So here you want to come in with your sewing allowance first and then add about half or 1 inch here. So for this pattern you don't need too much sewing allowance. At least 1 inch or half inch should be enough for the sewing allowance for this blouse. So after this I'll go ahead to cut out this pattern, and when I'm cutting out the bust that area, I'll go ahead to blend it in a bit and also cut the rest of my pattern. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, also leave your comments at the comment section. And if you also want to join our WhatsApp group, you can go ahead and indicate at the comment section. So after cutting, this is what I have. Now we're moving over to the back pattern, and I've marked my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and my waistline at the back is 15.5. After that I added the extra 7.5 inches. So I marked my shoulder divided by 2, added half, and came down by 1 inch. This is exactly the same way we got our chest line at the front. This is what you'll be repeating at the back pattern again. So after marking the chest line, I marked my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. Now I'll also go ahead to connect it and go ahead to divide the armhole and mark. I'll be coming in by half inch here. After this, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So from this part, I'll connect and also extend it all the way up. So after I'm done extending this at this point, the next step is to start marking out my pattern, and I'll start by marking my dart for this pattern. So if you're marking your dart, you're going to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So I'm going to mark this from the upper part of my pattern to the lower part of my pattern. Go ahead to draw a straight line. So you want to mark your dart intake of half inch on both sides of your waist and take a straight dart that is half inch also at the blouse length of your dress. And I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line connecting at both sides of the pattern. So after I'm done doing this, I'll come down by 1 inch at this part and then go ahead to extend this and also extend the other side of my dart. So after I'm done extending this, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this. So the next step I will take from here is to insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. For the waistline, my waist is 28 divided by 4. I have 7. I'll mark. Then measure my dart. I had to readjust my dart. It's more than 1 inch. And I'll go ahead to also replace and add my sewing allowance. For the lower part of this dress at the hip, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, replace the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. After I'm done doing this, which I'll go ahead to connect my pattern. Now I'll be coming down by half inch here, and I'll extend this all the way to the chest line. This is to make sure that the lacing bar area does not pop up when you're putting on this pattern. So you're putting on this dress. I'll go ahead to outline the other part of my pattern. The lacing area of this dress, I'll be using 2 inches, so you can use 1.5. This totally depends on how open you want the back pattern to be. And after this, I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line at this part. So after I'm done drawing this out, I'll go ahead to draw out a line to indicate that I have a lacing bar here and make few dots. So from this part, I'll go ahead and come up a bit, and I'll go up, I'll go down by 3.5, and I'll go ahead to connect. So from there, I'll just go ahead to blend in my dart to match with the other side, and I'll come down with about 2 inches from there. So I'll just go ahead and outline this, and this is what I have for the back pattern. So I'll go ahead and measure a neckline of 4 inches, and I'll extend it to the lower part. So after I'm done extending this, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline, and I'll mark 0.3 inches here to tighten the yoke also, and I will connect. I'll go ahead to label my pattern, and this is what we have for this pattern. If you have any questions so far, please go ahead to ask at the comment section, and if you want to join our WhatsApp or /Telegram group, you can go ahead to indicate at the comment section.